Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2025. Pepe Escobar joins us now from midnight in Thailand. Pepe, you're so intrepid, but of course, what you went through and the absence of sleep in Yemen is nothing compared to what you're doing now. Welcome here, my dear friend.
My pleasure, Judge. My enormous pleasure.
Big picture, your impressions of Yemen in wartime.
Well, I wrote two columns. I think I sent it to you, the second
You
column.
did. You did. I read both of them.
Yes.
Now, they're riveting, but I just want you to give us the big picture of the Yemenis people, the Yemenis landscape, the attitude towards the U.S. Was it like for you to live in Yemen during wartime, knowing the U.S. was trying to kill the people you were with?
It's an undescribable feeling in words. You can feel it. It gets under your skin. Everything, the atmosphere, their purity, their moral clarity, their purpose, the absolutely extraordinary landscape. In the case of the souks, and especially in the souk in the old city in Sana'a, is absolutely magnificent. But most of all, you feel that you are in a real Arabia, the purity of ancient Arabia, classic Arabia, what the Roman Empire called Arabia Felix, happy Arabia. And obviously, even the Prophet Muhammad himself, through Islam, for him, was Southern Arabia, was Arabia Felix, what is then became Yemen. So you feel it in the air. And when I was on the road to Saada, which is a spectacular road in some stretches, reminds us a little bit of the beauty, the raw beauty of the American Southwest. You feel it. It's in the air, and then it gets inside you. And when you start talking to people, that's another story. From high-level officials to people who are part of the high political council, to the people in the souk, which I had the privilege to exchange at least a few words, both in Saada in the northwest and then in Sana'a. It's unique. One of them told me, nowadays the whole of Yemen is Houthi. What he said, the meaning of what he said is that everybody in Yemen understands what we're doing, what we're fighting for. And then, of course, us, a small group of foreigners from East and West, we're always telling them, do you know who you're up against? You have an enraged empire who wants to destroy you, literally. And then they look at you, there's this Yemeni smirk. They are naturally gracious and very elegant as well. So it doesn't matter. We will win in the end.
You met with senior religious and political leaders. You literally met with some people that the American government, in its misguided way, wants to kill. What can you tell us about their determination to resist the genocide in Gaza and to resist the United States bombing campaign?
Exactly. This goes all the way from the leader, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, which is the younger brother of Hussein al-Houthi, who founded Ansar Allah, to the 9 members of the High Political Council, and we're very privileged to meet 4 of them, in fact, and talk to them. One of them visited us, and he spent over 2 hours answering our questions in our hotel. And a wonderful meeting that I had Friday, 2 days before Eid, on Al-Quds Day, in fact, Jerusalem Day all over. Muhammad Bakaiti. And he's a provincial governor. He's part of the leadership. He's part of the political council. And he said, straight away, look, there will be a few surprises for the Americans along the way. So, they still haven't played all their cards.
Do they do they grasp what the U.S. is doing as a war
Yes.
crime? I mean, unless my history is wrong, the
Mm.
government of the United States of America has been killing civilians in Yemen for 23 years, since 2002.
Yes.
How do they cope with that? What do they think of Americans? What would they think if some of the people on this program were to take a trip to Yemen?
Well, we had two Americans in our group who were treated royally. It has nothing to do with the American people and Americans per se. It's different American administrations and, of course, the US deep state. They understand pretty well how politics in the US work. Not as sophisticated, in a more sophisticated vein like the Russians, the Chinese, or the Iranians, but they understand the basics of how the system works in the US and why they are on the firing line now. But their position is spiritually, ethically, and morally ironclad. We need to defend our brothers and sisters in Palestine because there's a genocide being committed against them. We were respecting the ceasefire before. Israel broke the ceasefire. So now, they are on our firing line again. And the Americans supporting them. So the Americans are on our firing line. The USS Truman is on our firing line. So they understand perfectly how it works. But above all is a principled position. They are the only ones on the planet who are doing something tangible, practical, to try to defend the Palestinians and to try to end the genocide, which ultimately we can say that they know it's practically impossible. But at least they are trying with their means and paying with their own blood for the consequences. This, in terms of a moral position, you cannot beat that. It's light in the middle of this dark cloud coming down to, remember our good friend Bob Dylan, over all of us. And especially now when everybody was expecting that Trump 2.0 would be a sort of peace administration. No, they already relaunched an illegal war against the poorest nation in the Arab world to defend the interests of a genocidal gang in Israel. It's completely absurd, and they understand this perfectly.
The poorest nation. This is quite a line, and it's true. They unleashed a torrent against the poorest nation in the Arab world. Excuse me, to defend the genocide perpetrated on their brothers and sisters by Israel. Is the IDF in Yemen?
I'm sorry?
Is the IDF in Yemen?
No. Israeli intelligence in Yemen is less than zero. And American, for that matter, Judge. They don't know, for instance, where the mobile military deployments of the Yemeni armed forces are. They are bombing civilian installations. Another example, yesterday they bombed a water management system in the port of Hodeidah. Civilian casualties so far, only civilian casualties. So they are bombing.
Would that have been an error? Where the bomb didn't go where they wanted it to go, or was that intentional? Because if it's intentional, it's a war crime.
Of course it's intentional. Just like Israel, everything that they bomb in Gaza is intentional, planned, meticulously planned. In the case of CENTCOM, they are bombing at random, like a surrealist act. Oh, let's bomb anywhere. Doesn't matter.
Are there American troops on the ground in Yemen?
No, absolutely none. And if there were, of course, they would have been spotted by the way, the interactions that I have with people from Yemeni intel, they are very, very good, super pro, and commandos as well. Very pro, very well trained.
CIA or Mossad on the ground in Yemen?
As far as we could tell, no. And as far as we, of course, we asked that question to many intel ops in Saada, and especially Saada. Saada If there would be CIA MI6 on the ground, they would have to be in Saada, because Saada is the heart of the resistance and is the birthplace of Ansar Allah. I would say that it's nearly impossible for these people to be there, because
I ask about Mossad.
I'm sorry.
No. The reason I ask about Mossad is because Mike Walsh and his colleagues, after they were embarrassed by the signal text chatting that was published in the Atlantic magazine, leaked that they learned that a certain missile expert who worked for the Houthis was about to visit the apartment of his girlfriend. I mean, itself kind of absurd that would happen in an Islamic society. But anyway, they claimed that they learned that from Mossad. So if true, would Mossad have learned that he was about to enter the apartment building of his girlfriend from a satellite or from a human being on the ground?
No, the only possibility, which obviously we cannot, none of our sources or ourselves can confirm, a Saudi spy. Don't forget that, for instance, the northern border of Yemen, the southern border of Saudi Arabia stole vast areas that used to belong historically to Yemen. So they come from the same region, they speak with the same accent, and these Saudi spies could pass as local Yemenis, dressed up as Yemenis, speaking with the same accent, etc. These are the possible informants for the Americans and for Mossad. And some of them may be around Sana'a at least. Not in Saada, because Saada is much smaller, much more concentrated, and they will be instantly detected. I think I told you last time, Judge, there's no internet in Saada. Everybody uses dumb phones. You know, there are 2 or 3 guys who have 3G modem. You know, so it will be a sort of
that's ancient by Western standards. 3G.
It's completely ancient history, exactly.
Yeah. So, did you ever feel that your life was threatened by CENTCOM, which is the technical abbreviated name for the American forces?
Absolutely correct. No, not at all. And in fact, the way that they took us to the decoy white SUV convoy through which we got from Sana'a to Saada very, very early in the morning was a brilliant operation, because it didn't look like a convoy. They were just mingling with other vehicles in the highway. And the fact and how we were protected while we were in Saada, I put my trust on that. Absolutely. And they knew that we were a target. If CENTCOM wanted it, of course. Well, we went to the place that they bombed 2 days before we arrived. We arrived on Wednesday, and CENTCOM bombed that in progress cancer hospital in Saada on Monday. And we went there on the spot. Wow, this is
CENTCOM bombed
one of the American bombs, Judge.
CENTCOM bombed a cancer hospital?
Yes, we discussed this on our last Friday on our meeting, if I'm not mistaken. I have images, and these images went everywhere. And in most of my columns, there are images of the bombing and images of some of the fragments that we collected with the manufacturer name and the contract number. These are all in the possession of a Yemeni. Exactly, that's the hospital. Now, wow. The Yemeni investigative team, they have this evidence. Of course, they're starting their investigation now. And just I showed a few seconds ago, I managed to sneak this fragment of an American bomb in my backpack through 3 airports.
Nobody
kept
you. Are the Houthis being financed or armed by the government of Iran?
No. As far as we could tell, directly, no. Indirectly, possible. Very, very possible. For instance, it was impossible in only 1 week to track uh, the financial chain of Ansar Allah. We would need more time, and we need to be more time over there. And of course, this is classified information. For us foreigners, is, I would say, totally off limits. But the financing of the Yemeni armed forces is pretty solid. They are about to reveal one of these surprises in the next few days. They are even sort of announcing it on tweets, on X. Be ready for a big surprise, probably a new missile. And this is something that we discussed, Judge, last week. This comes a long way since the best Yemeni engineers and physicists went to study in the USSR and China. So this comes a long way. It's not from one day or another, somebody from the IRGC disembarks in Sana with the military secrets. No, not at all. It's a long way. And they are very capable militarily. And at the same time, for instance, we visited the Zakat authority, who takes care of the needy, the poor, the needy, the people who need clothes, food, etc. It's a nationwide system where people register themselves with a digital card, and they have access to social services, and if they are in dire straits, to food as well. So it's a very sophisticated system, even for a very poor country. Naturally rich. But as you mentioned, because the Saudis essentially are at war against Yemen since the 1960s, one of the members of the High Political Council gave me an exact date, in fact, 1967. And the war in 2015, we were in Sadat exactly 10 years after the start of the renewed Saudi war against Yemen, with that famous coalition of the willing, led by the Saudis, with the Emiratis as well, with the US leading from behind. And the Saudi plan never changed. They have the Wahhabis of the Saudi family. They hate Yemen with a vengeance because they know that the real Islam, the purity of Islam, is in Yemen, is not in Saudi Arabia at all. It's the hate of the upstarts against the old aristocracy in terms of Arabia as a whole. So, and it's worse. This will continue. And one of the conversations that we had in the last few days, involving this military buildup in Diego Garcia, I was talking to Larry. Beginning of the week, Judge, about that. This may be at first not directed against Iran in the next few days and weeks. It could be directed against Yemen as, the prelude of a massacre, of a state terrorism massacre against the leadership of Ansar Allah and the Yemeni people as a whole. We hope this is not the case, but this is a very plausible scenario for the next few weeks.
In the past 10 days, the American Secretary of Defense has denied that the discussion about the plans to bomb Yemen were classified, has boasted that the effect of the bombing was successful, has told the Taiwanese people that the United States would militarily defend Taiwan against mainland China. Does the Secretary of Defense know what the hell he's doing?
No, he doesn't, Judge. And I'm very sorry to say that a clown that, keeps boasting that he does 1 million push-ups a minute and has a kafir tattoo in his arm, you cannot take a person like that seriously. He's a joke. He's a clown. And his interventions in the Signal Gate prove that he is a clown who has no idea what he's talking about, especially on everything concerning West Asia.
How I wish that, because very powerful position, how I wish that President Trump had a saner head in that job who would caution the president before he does these things rather than enable him. For example, we all read the transcript of those 2 or 3 days of texts involving Signalgate. Not one word about the morality or the lawfulness of killing the Yemen people. It was all about process. It was not about why and should we do this.
Absolutely.
One wonders if Donald Trump even knew that they were having this conversation.
We don't know. Exactly. We don't know. And that's what makes it even more worrying, because it's a bunch of, I would say, with a few variations, clowns, very horribly informed clowns, or totally misinformed clowns, with unrestricted power, and discussing launching an illegal war, another one, on a map. Why? In their own words, because we need to send a message, because we can, because we are the sole superpower, and because we need to send a message.
Let me switch gears before we conclude. In your opinion, if the United States joins Israel in a military assault on Iran, will Moscow and Beijing just sit back and watch?
Well, that's the $1 zillion question, Judge. I'm trying to organize a column for the next few days, trying to answer this question, because the treaty that they signed in late January in Moscow, the strategic partnership between Iran and Russia, it's not a military alliance at all. But at the same time, we're talking about the 3 top BRICS. Let's exclude India. The new Primakov triangle, which used to be Russia, China, and India at the time of Primakov, the former foreign minister at the end of the millennium. Now, the new Primakov triangle is Russia, China, and Iran. So an attack of one of these top BRICS, Iran, from the point of view of Russia and China, is inadmissible. What Vice Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, which I had the honor to meet in person last year, said early this week is essential. He said, if there would be an attack like that, the consequences for the region would be catastrophic. So this, in terms of Russian diplomacy, means all hell will break loose. And obviously, Russia will not be sitting down, because Iran, from a Chinese point of view, is a matter of national security as a provider of energy and as a conduit of the Belt and Road Initiative, of the new Silk Roads across Central Asia and West Asia. And Russia now, with this extremely sophisticated partnership, which is also geoeconomic, because it includes the North-South corridor. And the 3 members of the North-South corridor are Russia, Iran, and India, 3 BRICS. So if there was an attack like that, for the moment, Judge, there is an enormous blah, blah, blah. Nobody knows what they're talking about. Sorry. I will be in Iran in 1 month, and I will be reporting from Iran in 1 month. And then I want to get the Iranian position in detail. At the moment, what we have is pure speculation. For instance, Zionists saying that there's going to be the largest attack since the Second World War against Iran soon. So it's a narrative, essentially. Nobody knows what they're talking about. But what Russia and China know exactly is an attack on Iran is an attack on both of them, and an attack on BRICS as a whole, because this is a war against BRICS as well. And all these Trump tariffs as well, they are mostly directed against BRICS nations.
Pepe Escobar, thank you, my dear friend. Thank you for staying up, as you always do, in the wee hours. We will look forward to that reporting from Iran. Some of our friends, some of the regular guests on the show will be there with you. More about that as the time approaches. But even more importantly, we look forward to seeing you alive, well, happy, courageous, and brave every week. See you again soon. Thank you.
Judge. Thank you so much. And thanks, Harold.
My dear friend. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Sure. And coming up later today at 2 o'clock, Aaron Mate at 3 o'clock, Phil Giraldi at 4:15, Max Blumenthal, Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.